Imagine losing the use of both of your legs. It's unthinkable to most of us, not being able to walk down to the supermarket, to go and see a friend, and just walking in general, right? It's such an essential part of our lives. But that's exactly what happened to Steve Judge. He is currently a motivational speaker. He runs a company called Inspire. And the reason he's a motivational speaker is after he lost the use of his legs, he had a long recovery process. He did end up getting back into walking, getting back into running, and then getting back into triathletes. And he became a para triathlete and ended up becoming the world champion. So really incredible story of Steve. And so he's going to be talking through that recovery, through his accident, how he became a world champion, and then what he's doing now with motivational speaking. So let's hear from Steve himself. Steve, thanks a lot for joining today. You brought a lot of, we were talking about your energy before the show because I saw you at an accounting conference, and accountants aren't the liveliest bunch, and you were certainly stirring up the energy there. So yeah, thanks for doing that.
No problem. It's it's knowing your audience, and I must admit, as a speaker, you're supposed to change depending on who the audience is. But I'm an energetic speaker. It's very hard to not be energetic because I get so excited about the job that I do, about the passion and everything. So even though they were accountants, I still had the energy and they loved it. So it just proves that, accountants have got different forms that they can fill, and they really had great interaction. Loved it. It's great seeing you there.
Accountants have souls too, right? So anyway, let's talk about you. Let's not talk about accountants. So I wanted to take a step back. So obviously you had this accident we're going to discuss later on the show, but what was your life like before you had the accident? Like when you had full use of your legs?
Yeah, crikey. What's my life like? It's like this is your life going back. So I guess, okay, as a kid, I loved running. Running was my thing. Running was my passion. I'd run everywhere and everywhere with my dog, running through the fields, always looking at PBs, personal best, writing them down, trying to beat them. Always giving myself, the laying down the gauntlet, beat that, Steve. So next time I came across the results, I would have a look at that and try and beat that. So always setting goals and working towards. The other thing I liked doing was scouting. I loved scouting, and I loved the badges that you get down your arm. And yeah, I think the first 3 badges that I ever got in scouting were, in actual fact, swimming, cycling, and running. So that comes into the story later on about how scouting molded me. But I did it for the fun, the challenge, the adventure, the life skills and the opportunities. I loved scouting. When I left school, I worked down the coal pit. I know it's hard to believe with this accent. I'm quite tall as well, but I was a coal miner, and I went to college and became an engineer. So I was a mechanical engineer, maintenance fitter, still working down the pit. But that meant that I was constantly being given problems and I had to solve them. And I liked that. Even because when you're at the coal face, you can't lean on your excuses. You have to get that stuff done. So yeah, enjoyed being an engineer, and through my young adult years, carried on running. Running was my passion. I loved it. Running through the fields, doing 10K races. That's what I was really good at. I say races. I was never like elite or anything like that. I was very, very good. For those 10K runners out there, my personal best was 37:42, which is good. And my goal was to get 35 minutes. Or less than 35 minutes before I was 35 years old. That was my goal. But sadly, I never reached the age of 35 before the accident happened. And that had a massive change in my life.
So it was 2002, right, that you had an accident?
That's right. Yes, 2002.
Can you talk us through what happened and obviously, the injuries that you had afterwards?
Yeah, sure. So 2002. Driving on the outskirts of Sheffield, rainy day, lots of water on the road, and my car lost control. It skidded, and it sent me off at a tangent, and it crashed me into a pole, bent the car in half, and my legs were in the crash, in the crush, I guess. Everybody came to save me. It took them about an hour and a half to get me out, where they had to cut me out of the car, and eventually, when they dragged me out of the wreckage, they dragged me out along with what was left of my legs. And they put me into a nearby waiting ambulance, and that ambulance mercy dashed me to the nearest hospital, which was in Sheffield, Northern General Hospital. And when I got there, rushed through the emergency ward and everything, I got to meet my surgeon. He said, look, we're going to see what we can do, but there's a chance that we may have to amputate your right leg because it was so bad. And I remember just saying, just please, just do the best that you can. And they took me off into the operating theatre. But to be honest, I found out later, to be honest, Mickey, that they lied to me, because it wasn't just my legs that they're trying to save; it was my life. They really didn't know if I was going to be coming out of the operating theatre alive or dead. And that's the message that my mum received, my brother and my sister, who didn't know if they were going to see their younger son, younger brother ever again. Now, the operation lasted about 8.5 hours, and when I came to, I was in a bad way, as you can imagine. I was disorientated, I was in so much pain. My legs were just very static. I had a big metal cage on my right leg, and my foot was actually closer than it should have been. I was like, that shouldn't be right. That's wrong. And my left leg was just like in a big plaster cast. And it was around this time the surgeon was doing his rounds. He came over to my bed and he said, how are you feeling? So I expressed how I was feeling in a bad way. He said, look, I want to be honest with you. We did manage to save both of your legs, but with the severity of the injuries that you sustained, there's a chance that you may never walk again. And that was like a real shell shock to me, as you can imagine. And I think if anybody gets information like that, for me, it's like a fight or flight in a way at that stage. I think this is where the resilience kicks in. So fight or flight, as in I could have just rolled over in bed and just said, okay, I guess I'll never walk again. That's it. This is where it ends. And for me, I felt really angry that somebody had the audacity to say that. When somebody takes away something like that, your ability to walk again. I mean, as a human being, it's something that we all take for granted. But somebody says, "I don't think you'll ever walk again." You're like, "What the hell? Why would you say that?" And that brought anger. And I guess this is the fight in a way of my journey. I was willing to do whatever it took to make sure that I could walk again, stand again, walk again, and onwards. But I didn't realize how long a journey that was going to be. I like to say that I didn't think I really had a choice. I know I said I could have just rolled over in bed and just given in, but that wasn't for me really an option. It was like, okay, so there might not be a chance I could walk again, but you said the word might. So what do I have to do? Tell me what I have to do, and I will do that so that I can walk and I can stand and everything. And again, it's just that mindset, about having that mindset of this is what I need to do. This is my goal. And when we're talking about that, I'm thinking about your audience here who are like CEOs and they're salespeople and they're driven and you're driven towards goals, whether that's goals in the charts or goals against your colleagues or even financial goals. But it might be goals in your life as well, your health, your wealth, your happiness. These are all goals for me. And once you know what you're working towards, for me, I just got through survival, so we've done that. I survived. That's good. My goal now is to stand and walk, and then the next bit comes. Why? Why do you want that so much? Okay, well that's damn obvious. You want to stand and walk. The next question is, what do I have to do? And I call it your golden gear, as in what gear do you need to achieve that? It's one question 3 times. What more can I do? What more can I do? What more can I do? I was hungry for information. I was hungry. The physios were coming over, the surgeons were coming over, the doctors were coming over, and I said, "Tell me what I need to do, and I will do that." And as well as a lot of physio, I said, "Okay, let's get a list then." And at one point, I want to make sure I don't come across as like some kind of Superman. There were some very low days as well, but on the good days when I was really driven, I was doing like at one point 21 different physio exercises. Now, if anybody's done physio, you know how boring and painful and monotonous it is. But I was so driven that I said, I was doing 21 different exercises, and I'd still say, "Is there anything else that I can do?" And they go, "No, it's all right, Mr. Judge. I think you've got enough at the moment." I said, "Okay," and I struggled to do it every single day again because physio is so boring. But I was driven to get those results, and again, that takes me back to when I was running, when I was doing scouting, about finding that goal and working towards it. So yeah, that took me through my rehabilitation years, I guess.
I know one of the things you talked about in your speech, and I've seen some of your content online, talk about, if you see something's an excuse, you've got to turn that into a challenge and then work out how you're going to get around it. And I think one of the things I was thinking is, how do you know, say someone's listening to this, how do they know if they're telling themselves what is an excuse? Because you obviously identified, the doctor said I might not be able to walk again. If I tell myself I'm never going to be able to walk again, that's actually an excuse. I don't have to believe this doctor. I can ask other doctors like how I can do therapy. So how can we actually like identify our own excuses when we're giving ourselves excuses?
I'm smiling because you know the answer. You just know the answer. Everybody knows the answer. You know if it's an excuse or not. Sometimes it is a fact. Okay, it's a fact. Like I will never play in the men's singles Wimbledon ever. I'm too old and I've got disability and it's just not my goal. It's a fact I will never get there. But there's certain things that are just excuses. A classic example is you're going to go for a run and then it starts raining and you go, oh, well, I can't run now because it's raining outside. You think, no, come on. There's something inside you in your gut that knows that that's an excuse. You can just put a coat on or you can just get wet. It's not the end of the world. So it's about asking yourself what's an excuse. And if you are really struggling, then ask somebody else and, you know, brainstorm and say, look, we want to do this, but there's this barrier here. There's this obstacle there. That means we can't do it. And they might go, well, hold on a minute. We could actually do this. Have you thought about that? Because if you think you've got all the answers, you're wrong. I've come across that as well. I've thought of everything. I've brainstormed, I've done a mind map, and I've got a vision board, and I've got, there are no answers. And then I mention it to my friend or my colleague, and they say, oh, have you not thought about this? Or have you checked this website out? Have you heard this person's story? You know, like, oh my God, there's a really good one on scouting. We had this Cub Scout in our group, and she wanted to get all of the badges down one arm. There's like 58 of them. There's loads of them. And one of them was equestrian, so horse riding. And, you know, we're in a village here. We haven't got loads of money or anything. She certainly didn't have loads of money to start up horse riding, for crying out loud. But she really wanted that badge. So instead of saying, oh, I can't afford it, I can't do that one, what she did, she was 10 and a half years old. She went down to the local stables and she helped out. She volunteered cleaning horse manure and stuff like that over a couple of weekends. And in payment for that, they taught her how to ride a horse. She found a way because she really wanted that badge. She wanted to collect all the badges. That's just one example. But, you know, other people would not see that. There's loads of people in scouting and they'd go through the badge book and they go, there's certain ones that I just cannot do. That's it. It's not an excuse, you know. And you think, oh, hold on a minute. It is an excuse. And so the message is, don't lean on your excuses. Turn your excuses into challenges. Don't lean on your excuses. We all use excuses lots of times. Just don't. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's fine. If you don't want to go for a run, don't go for a run. If you don't want to get the badges, don't go for. But it's the people that talk about the stuff that say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I can't because of this barrier and this barrier and this barrier. So I'm out. And like, no, it really frustrates me. That's an excuse, and you're leaning on it. It's almost like you don't want to achieve this goal that you set yourself. If you really want it, you'll find a way. So turn it into a challenge. And the challenge word is so important because it is not easy. None of this is easy. And much as I come across as a motivational speaker and a very positive and optimistic, there are some tough times, there's some down days, and it's really challenging and it's not easy. It's a challenge. But that's the whole point. If you really want to achieve it, then you'll push yourself through that. You're not leaning on excuses. You'll turn it into a challenge. You go, right, how on earth are we going to do this? Right, first things first, I need to ask for help, or I need to Google something, or I need to go and look at a YouTube video, but find a way of doing it. What more can you do? What more can you do? What more can you do? And that helps you move forward. So that's, you know, it's about having that mindset. You were talking about the mindset earlier, and that is about it. And so how do you know whether it's an excuse or not? You know, you know deep inside, you know if it's an excuse or not. So just ask yourself.
So going back to the after the accident, obviously, when I read about this before, you had a very like intensive, you know, physiotherapy. So can you talk us through that? So you had this big accident, you were literally pulled out of a car. Like, what was the physio like after that?
Yeah, physio. It was horrible. It's horrible. God, dude. It was. I mean, I say it's boring and everything, but for me, it was painful. Because one of the physios or the rehabilitation was to grow my leg back. Yes, you heard correctly. I had to grow my leg back. So my about 4 inches of bone had been knocked out of my leg, and they'd squashed it up. They put a big metal cage around it, and so it was 4 inches shorter. My foot was closer. And I said, so what do we do with this? And they said, well, what you're going to do, Mr. Judge, is we're going to break the bone because the bone's like healed. So after like a month, they said, we're going to break the bone with like a hammer and chisel in the theatre, and then you, Mr. Judge, are going to twist nuts and bolts and slowly lengthen your leg bit by bit by bit by bit, a millimetre a day. So I had to twist these bolts like 1/4 of a millimetre 4 times a day, That was my progress. A quarter of a millimeter. You can't even do that with your finger and thumb. Quarter of a millimeter is tiny. It just felt pathetic. But that's what I had to do. And over 100 days, then I extended my leg to the right length, and that was so painful. And because the pins, without going into too much detail, but I'm literally ripping through my skin. I'm stretching the ligaments and stretching the bone and the calcium stream inside. It was just so painful. I was inflicting pain on myself, but that's what I had to do to achieve my goal. And I want to stress this bit because it's not easy, but that's what I really needed to do. I met somebody the other day actually, and they had a very similar accident, and they had a very similar injury, and their leg was short. I think we had the same surgeon, and I said, "Oh, so what happened?" He said, "Oh, it didn't work," and he's now got a shoe with like a 3-inch heel on it, and he's got a limp and stuff like that. And I said, "Oh, that's really bad." I felt really sorry for him. I didn't want to like talk about my story too much all of a sudden because I thought, "Oh no, he'll feel like he'd be really jealous." And then I bumped into him like a couple of months later, and we carried on the conversation. And he said, he opened up a little bit. He said, "To be honest, Steve, when I said it didn't work," he says, "I couldn't do it." I said, "What do you mean you couldn't do it?" He says, I couldn't do the twisting of the bolts." He said it was too painful. And I'm like, it was too painful. I didn't know that was an option. I knew it was going to be painful. It was painful. It was horrible. But at no point did I go, "Oh, I think I'm going to stop." Because I knew that if I stopped, I would not have the right length leg. And I knew that if I didn't have that, I would limp for the rest of my life. And if I limped for the rest of my life, that would affect my knee and my hip. And if it affected your knee and your hip, it's going to affect your back as well as time goes on. It is catastrophic if you've got the wrong length leg. Even with a heel, it's not the same. And so that was my mindset, that it's not an option. I need to get my legs to the right length. So yes, I put myself through the pain. But then I was going to say the funny bit, it was hilarious. The funny bit was I had the right length, and they said, "Okay." I said, "Can you take this damn metal cage off now?" I said, "No, Mr. Judge, you've got no bone in your leg. It just goes, if you did the x-ray, it's like white bone, gap, and then white bone. There's just like a grey element where the bone was growing back. It was just like nothing." He says, "You got no bone in your leg." I said, "Okay. So when the bone grows, the cage comes off." He says, "Yes." I said, how do you grow bone?" And I was just like drinking lots of milk for calcium, and I was having calcium pills and eating cheese. I was doing anything, what more can I do, kind of thing, to grow my bone back. And the surgeon was like, "Yeah, okay, Steve, that might help, but what will really help is if you use it. If you stand on your leg and you walk on your leg and you put weight through your leg, that's going to encourage the bone to grow back." And I'm like, "Right. But there's no bone in my leg." He says, "No." I said, "And you want me to stand on my leg even though it's got no bone on it?" He says, "Yeah, you got to trust the cage." I'm like, "Okay, you want me to?" Okay, so you're like, "You trust the cage." So, but this is what I had to do. So I took myself out with my crutches, walking round the park, grunting on every single step. Again, this is where the challenge comes in, the pain comes in. It was a nightmare. And again, I didn't stop. I mean, while I was doing it, it was painful. And when I got home, I'd collapse. And the next day, I'd do it all again because that's what I needed to do. Again, knowing what the goal is means that you work towards it. This is what the surgeon said I needed to do to grow my bone back. Okay, then I'll do it. I feel like Forrest Gump, because people just told him what to do and he did it. When he's in the military, this is how you take a rifle apart, and you just do it over and over and over and over again. This is how he played table tennis, did it, and he just did it. And so that's what I do. And I think that's how you get in with certain things. Like if you have a coach, whether that's a business coach or whether that's a sporting coach or a teacher, they're really good. They're really educated, knowledgeable, expertise. They tell you what to do. Now then, it's up to you to do the stuff that they tell you to do. And if you don't do it, then lo and behold, it doesn't work. So again, with that mindset, knowing what you've got to do, and it might be even reading a book or watching YouTube or listening to a podcast, listen to this podcast. I'm here now giving what you need to do. It's up to you to do it. And it's about taking action. All of this is useless if you're not going to do anything about it. I find that as a motivational speaker now, that I can inspire and I can motivate, but that will only last about 48 hours. And then you go back to where you were. within that 48 hours, while you're hyped up, adrenaline and everything, and you're inspired, that's when you've got to take action and put something in place, put a new routine in place, put a new habit in place, send that email, make that phone call, do that thing that will set you up so that when the motivation wears off, you're doing something new. By all means, be motivated again 48 hours later, and again and again, and read another book, another podcast, and whatever. But put something in place, because if you're not taking action, then I feel like I'm wasting my time in a way. It's lovely, and you'll be lifted for a little bit, but it's not longevity. And that's the thing. I really want people to succeed and achieve in their life. So please take action. That's the message.
Yes, 100%. And it was interesting the story you were saying about the other guy who had the screws in his leg as well, and he wouldn't actually turn the screws because he said it was too painful. And I know you mentioned Forrest Gump. I was thinking of a film as well, which is The Untouchables. I think there's a couple of films called The Untouchables. This is a French one where there's a guy who's a paraplegic, and I think it is a skiing accident, and he can't move his body. And he's like interviewing carers to look after him. And all the carers are kind of like, feeling sorry for him, etc. And then this guy from Senegal comes in and he's actually having a laugh with him, but he's kind of like a little bit tougher with him. And I think sometimes you need that person, like you were saying with that guy actually needed someone to say to him, no, do turn the screws, because it's painful in the short term, but in the long term. And I think often we're more focused on that short-term gratification versus the long-term gratification, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we naturally as human beings go for the short-term gratification, whether that's chocolate cake or alcohol or not doing the things that we want. We're always trying to find this way to get fit and healthy, but not get hot and sweaty and do lots of exercise. And there's loads of gadgets out there. I love the one where you can get that thing you wrap around your six-pack and it sends like pulses out, and people think you can just wear one of those and get a six-pack.
Yeah.
And the adverts look so tempting, and I've never bought one, but I nearly have. And then my brain says, I think you have to do exercise as well as wear that thing. You can't, and you need to diet as well as wear that thing. By all means, wear the thing, and that will help. But there's other stuff that you've got to do that is tough, that is challenging. And that is the same with nearly everything. If you want to achieve at a high level, there's going to be some challenging times, whether that's academic or whether that's physical or whether it's something else, going out your comfort zone. There is. There's no easy option, sadly, or nothing's really been invented to do that, again, in various ways. So, yeah, it's about breathing it in and getting on with it.
And did you have, obviously sounds like you're very motivated in general. You didn't take the, doctor's answer. You might not be able to walk a bend, but did you have like people around you as well who were like, also tough with you and encouraging you as well?
I had loads of people around me, and I think I call these people my golden gang, and everybody needs to know who their golden gang is. The golden gang are the people that are around you that help you to achieve, maybe, to where you are now. Well, first of all, they start you off. So, they start you off, then it's achievement. But the next one on the Golden Gang ring that I talk about in my workshops is fulfillment. So knowing who you need in your Golden Gang that's going to push you outside your comfort zone, up to the next level. The people that you've got have got you where you are, clearly, because you are where you are. But if you've got a vision of where you want to be, the people around you might not get you there. And so I'm not saying you need new people. Sometimes you just need new training or new outlook on the people that you've got, or you need to ask different questions. Or maybe you do need new people. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And it's kind of that thing as well. If you're in a mastermind group and you're the best one in the mastermind group, you're in the wrong mastermind group. You need to join another one, and that's out of your comfort zone. I mean, I'm in a mastermind group, and we go around the table about how everybody's doing and how much everybody's earning and stuff like that. And I'm like, geez, I'm way out my depth here, and that means I'm in the right place. And my goal is to one day I'll be the same level as them. So yes, about having your golden gang. So who did I have in my golden gang? Obviously, I had the amazing NHS who saved my life and took me through rehabilitation. Doctors, nurses, admin staff, loads of people throughout that. And physios, of course. I had my family and my friends. And then as an elite athlete, I had lots of people. I haven't really gone into the elite athlete things, but I had a lot of people helping me in my golden gang, practitioners, physios, coaches, swim, bike, run coach. And now, you know, fast forwarding now my business, I've got lots of people there, loads more than ever before, with my business coach and then my stylist, my hairdresser, my accountant, my website person. I've got so many supportive so many people that have helped me. But the key on all of those, the consistency, the one person that's helped me the most, and this is a lot of people ask me, is there been one person that's inspired you throughout your journey? Thinking I've got some kind of guru like Yoda or Obi-Wan or something like that. The one person that's helped me through my journey throughout is me, because I've been there consistently and I've been there pulling all the strings and I've been there taking action. I was the one that did the physio and did the chart. I was told what to do. Thank you very much. But I did it, 3 times a day. As I was doing the rehabilitation, I got a hands-free car and I would drive down and I would push myself round the park and I'd come back. There were people that supported me, but I was there on my own. As an elite athlete, I was the one that made my sandwiches the night before, and I was the one that set the alarm, and I was the one that got out of bed and dived into the cold swimming pool at 5:30 in the morning. I did that. Yes, the swim coach was there, but I put all the action in, and now my business, I have so many people helping me that I wouldn't be here without them. But I follow up on all the advice and all the expertise that they give me. And I'm not perfect. There's some things I can't do. And I'm so frustrated. There's only 24 hours in the day and I don't get to do everything. But I do as much as I can. I go to bed, my head hits the pillow, and I have no regrets. I just seriously couldn't have done any more today. I've got loads to do tomorrow, but that's fine. And I take action. And I think if people don't respect themselves and they're not inspired by themselves, by who they are and the action that they're taking, they need to question that. Because why are they not? I always have the golden gang around you supporting you, but you should be really proud of yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a celebration, whatever that means, and then push yourself again and again and again, because it's only really you that's going to take enough action for you to actually get there.
Absolutely love that. Well, yeah, talking of action, let's get into, becoming an elite athlete. So I think we left the physio at, you started actually walking again, and obviously it was painful being on your feet at the start.
Yeah.
But when did you decide, hey, I'm going to run a triathlon? Because I think most people who are in that situation, probably that's not what enters their mind.
It was a process. And I think it's very important because that I didn't wake up in hospital and think I want to be a triathlete. I just wanted to survive. I just wanted to grow my leg back, wanted to stand, wanted to walk. So these are all goals that I set, incremental goals. I got to the stage of I was able to walk again. I wasn't very good with disability in both my legs. I thought about what I could do rather than what I couldn't do. I realized there is no such thing as normal. Big message. Don't compare yourself to other people, your friends, your family, your work colleagues, celebrities. Everybody's different. I had to suddenly realize that and think about what I could do. I could swim, so I swam. I got onto a bike. I started cycling, setting myself goals, challenges, pushing myself. I wanted to prove to myself that the accident hadn't had a detrimental effect on my life. So what did I have to do that? Looking for a new challenge, found this thing called a paratriathlon, swimming, cycling and running for disabled people. Now, I hadn't run for 7.5 years. It had been stolen from me. Kind of quite bitter about that because I used to love running. And I thought, well, I could maybe walk fast around the course and I could still cross the finish line and call myself a triathlete and get a medal. But yeah, because it was a power triathlon, I thought, I wonder if I can register as a disabled athlete because of my injuries on both of my legs. So I went down, I got checked out, and after the assessment, they said, Mr. Judge, you are disabled. And I'm like, yes, this is great news. Because now I can set goals to become a para triathlete. And they said to me, Steve, can you run? And I said, not yet. But now I've got a goal. And so, like I said, 7.5 years not run. And now I started running and it was amazing. I was just looking down at my legs. I was running along just like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. The thing is that after that, the pain came. And so I couldn't run. So again, I thought about what I could do rather than what I couldn't do. I did the swim. And then the next day I did the bike. And the next day the pain had gone. So I did the run. This took me all the way up to my first para triathlon. Again, meeting the para triathletes of the UK, amazing people. These are people that are not leaning on their excuses. They had missing arms, missing legs, visually impaired or completely blind doing a triathlon. So it was amazing. To cut a long story short, did the swim, did the bike, did the run, and in my category, I crossed the finish line in first place. So it's an amazing accolade to go from wheelchair to crossing the finish line, completing a triathlon. But not only that, it was a British Championship. So when I crossed the finish line, I became British champion. And so I got the gold medal. I got the opportunity. And the opportunity, because they said, Steve, you're British champion. Would you like to represent Great Britain? And I'm like, hell yeah, I would love to represent Great Britain. The message here is very much there's opportunities all around us. You got to see them, you got to hear them, you got to smell them, and you got to grab hold of them with both hands. This is why I'm here on this podcast right now. You asked me if I could come to your podcast and share my journey, share my story. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds a great idea. I want to inspire and motivate as many people around the world as possible. So it's grabbing those opportunities. You never know where it's going to go. You never know who's listening, who's watching. So yeah, grab the opportunity, set goals, bigger goals now to become British champion again, but they also wanted to become a European champion, which I achieved. And then I set my goals to become world champion. That took me all the way out to Beijing, China, 2011. I'm now representing Great Britain. So I've got the GB kit, which always makes me smile. Just amazing to be wearing GB colours and the kit and everything like that. Meeting athletes from around the world who are there to compete against you. And, you know, the horn goes off. We do the swim, we do the bike, we do the run, and across the finish line to grab the gold medal. I actually think I've got the gold medal. It's very modest. I was talking about it with somebody. Oh, there, it was just here. It's actually out. And look at that, the gold medal. So that's Beijing gold medal, 2011. Paratriathlon tri-3 category world champion. So to go from wheelchair to world champion, amazing. In triathlon, endurance sport, it's such an amazing story. And so that, I mean, I did carry on to be very modest here. I did just carry on to be world champion again the following year. But if we whiz through the elite athlete stage, that lasted for about 4 years. And at the end of that, they said, you know, are you going to carry on, maybe go to the Paralympics, become a Paralympian? And I said, no, I'm not. And it's really interesting because a lot of people say, why? Why didn't you carry on? You know, you're world champion. And I said, for one, it wasn't my goal. Now, this is really important. If it's not your goal, you'll come up with excuses and you'll lean on them because you don't want it. You don't want it enough. You're not hungry enough for it. So why wasn't I hungry enough? Because it was another 3 years of training to maybe possibly get into the Paralympics. There's no guarantee. 3 years of hard labor of training. Training is so hard. I was squeezing it in round like a full-time job, a wife with 2 kids. So it was possibly harder for me, not leaning on excuses. I still did it. If I quit my job and had more time to train, that's a lot of training. Now, it's a lot of training for anybody, but with my disability, I get pain when I do the running. So I was putting myself through a lot of pain. If I went for a run, in fact, I still do it now. I think, right, Steve, you're going to be in pain afterwards. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, because I love running. So I'll do it. But when I'm limping around for 2 days afterwards, I'm like, was that worth it? And sometimes you think, oh, I'm not too sure. When you're training as an elite athlete, you're pushing yourself even more. And yet it hurts. And so somebody says, do you want to do that for another 3 years? You're like, I don't know if I do, actually. If there was a guarantee that I'd get to the start line of the Paralympics or even get the gold medal, then yeah, sod it, I'll do it. But there is no guarantee. I'm not talking about injury or anything like that. There's other people around the world that are fast and better than you, potentially. Can only be one winner. Anyway, with all of that, there was a little niggle that thought, I don't want to do it. Also, can I just say, I'd achieved so much. I'd got loads of gold medals, 2 times world champion, British champion 5 times, 2 times European champion, trophies and all sorts. So when people said, you're going to, also like 40 years old, are you going to carry on? I'm like, to be honest, I'm out. I think I've done here. So I wanted to move on to other things. You know, there's other things you can do in life. And one of the things I wanted to do was give back. I wanted to give back. Again, it's about thinking about how I can make good use of the bad stuff that's happened to me. So, you know, the accident had a detrimental effect on my life. One of the first things I did was I went back to Cubs, to scouting, and I'm now a Cub Scout leader, giving back to the new generation of fun, challenge and adventure. You never know where those badges are going to take them later on in their life, which is very exciting. And then also people said, no, what are you going to do? How are you going to give back? And I said, look, I really want people to know my story, and I want to help people. I want to empower people to achieve the life that they want to live. And I remember them saying, how are you going to do that? And I was like there with like a Superman pose. I said, I haven't got a clue. I had no idea how I was going to do, become a motivational speaker. But I knew that if I wanted something enough, then I would make it happen. And so I set off on my journey, when it is 8 years ago, to become a motivational speaker. And here we are, 8 years later. And it's ongoing. Can I just be honest here? It's ongoing. I've not made it yet. I think, when you're running your own business, I have read books and stuff like that, if you're still running a business after 5 years, then I think you're in the top 2%. And I just think that's pretty elite, isn't it? So maybe I can call myself an elite business owner. Also, can I just add, the pandemic was in that period of 8 years as well, and I survived. As a conference speaker, to say that all the conferences were like kiboshed, I did well to hang on. And that's where the resilience comes in. I know resilience was obviously in the rehabilitation stage. Resilience was obviously in becoming an elite athlete and going through the pain and the training. But resilience really came to its forefront during the pandemic. And that's why I discovered my concept, because a lot of resilience was a buzzword that people used bouncing around. What is resilience? What is resilience? And I said, I know what resilience is. I've used it. And they said, what is it, Steve? I said, I don't know how to describe it. So I now know how to describe resilience, and I call it the wave of resilience. Would you like me to go through that for you and the listeners?
Well, I thought I'd, before we do that as well, before we were recording, what was quite interesting about Steve is Steve's had this amazing story where everything we've talked about today became a world para triathlete champion. But in business, you were saying before, you still go through all the same struggles that every salesperson does, because as you said, a CEO is also a glorified salesperson all the time. And we were talking about the frustrations about being ghosted by customers, having to follow up a lot of the time. So I thought I'd call that out, because a lot of salespeople listen to this show, and someone like you who's had an absolutely extraordinary life, it's good to know that even you struggle with these problems that we all go through in business as well.
Yes. Yeah, I do I have to go through it again? It brings me down. It's so
no. We don't. No, we don't have to go through it. I think everyone that is listening to this as a salesperson knows exactly what we're talking about. So don't worry about it. But I just wanted to give the shout out. Yeah.
No, okay, I'm going to explain the wave of resilience first, and then we're going to go back to how I've used it in my business. When people ghost you, jeez, freaking winds me up. Right. Okay. Damn them. Right. So the wave of resilience. You start off and you have something that happens to you, like an adversity or shock, and you just like, oh my goodness, what's happened? You go into a fight or flight mode. Okay. Now, straight after that, you have denial, as in, surely this can't be happening. This can't be happening. And it goes up a little bit. And then you realize, no, it actually is happening. Now, this could be that the gig that you were going to get, or the sale that you were going to get, is now being kiboshed and you haven't got it. Or something like the pandemic's just kicked in and you think, well, surely it won't last for long. It'll probably only be about 3 weeks. And then after like a month, you think, okay, this is lasting a long time. So you go straight into denial, and then you start coming down this wave of resilience. Now, as you start coming down, you will go through the anger stage. You'll be very angry about what's going on, either with yourself, slamming doors. You might be off with people. But the thing is, the key to all of this is, what you should do is allow yourself to be angry. If you allow yourself to be angry, then you're in control. It's all about controlling this. So how can you control your anger? Maybe do some gardening, maybe go to the gym, maybe go for a run, maybe use a punch bag or pillow fight, or just go to the outside and scream your head off and get rid of that anger. Because if you suppress it, it doesn't go away. It's still there, and it will explode somewhere. So after anger, you've then got the start of sharing. And this is when your oxytocin kicks in. If you sharing is really good. You need to share what you're going through. You need to talk to somebody about it. If you've got a partner, or you've got a coach, then talk to them, or therapist. Or if you really struggle talking to other people, then maybe write a journal. Maybe watch your favorite film with the right messages, or poetry, or music, or do something to share it. The better you can do for sharing, the better you'll come through it. Again, if you deny it, it will just fester and it's no good. Now, whatever you do with anger and sharing, you'll still get to the bottom bit, which is rock bottom. Now, this is a very dark place. Now, it could be just sulking, but it might be even worse than that. It might even be depression, depending on what the situation is. But also how long you stay in this period depends on how you controlled the anger and the sharing period. But don't worry, after this period, there's the light at the end of the tunnel, because once you've gone through the rock bottom, you've got acceptance of the situation. And once you accept the situation, you get a bit of dopamine release, you get some serotonin release, you will start taking action, and the action will lift you up. And as you start going up, you'll take more action, more dopamine, more serotonin, and you start moving forward. Now, if you do this wave of resilience correctly, you'll end up higher than where you started, meaning that if you use resilience correctly, you get to a higher plane, meaning that it's a good thing, that change is a good thing, that adversity is a good thing, that when something goes wrong, it's a good thing. And that's sometimes very hard to imagine. My car accident where I nearly died and got my legs crushed, hey, it's a good thing. I struggle to say that. However, I do also look at all the things that I've achieved since then, and also the people that I've inspired and motivated since then. So I could almost convince myself, yeah, actually, it's a good thing. But it's not easy. You've got to go through the wave of resilience. So this does blend into my rehabilitation phase, of course, as an elite athlete and now in business. And I use it a lot. And I think the more you use it, even for the tiny things, even when you stub your toe, even when you can't find your wallet or your keys or your phone, you're just like, first of all, you go, oh, where is it? Oh, I can't have lost it, surely. Yes, I have. Oh, I'm so angry. They're angry. And then you share it with someone. Where's my keys? I can't find my flipping keys. And you're like, oh, I always lose them. That's your rock bottom. And then you say, well, let's think back about where I was last, accept the situation, take action, look for them, find them, move forward. And then the higher plane will be, well, maybe next time I should put my keys on the hook. And there's the action, so it will never happen again.
Yeah, I liked a lot what you said about anger as well, because I think often people don't think about that. They just see anger as something bad. You've got this burst of anger, etc. But everyone has. It's that acceptance, like you said, right? This is something that's going to happen to you, but it's all about, okay, how do you channel that anger? And I really liked, the wave of resilience format that you mentioned there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll send you an image of it, just in case you want to put it in the notes or something, because it's really good.
Awesome.
When something bad happens, you can see you on the journey. As you're getting angry and you're slamming those doors, you can go, this is what Steve Judge was talking about. He was talking about, I'm at the angry stage. I need to start share. I need to be a bit angry. Then I need to share. How am I going to share? And I don't get it right. I've just been going through some real problems with my mental health about 5-6 weeks ago because I missed out the sharing bit. I was doing everything else and I was sharing a little bit, but I wasn't being open enough. And it didn't work. It festered up inside me and it exploded. And I ended up in hospital with an infection, and I've learned from it, and it's again continuous improvement, and it's very important that I share that so that other people realize I'm all about. I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through, the bad stuff, not the good stuff. I don't want anybody to have a car accident or have to grow their leg back. I don't want anybody to be in hospital for mental health issues or anything like that. So if I can share it, if I can share my story in the best way possible so it's memorable, then people can learn from that. I can be the achievement catalyst for them so that they can go forward and they can achieve learning from my stories or my mistakes or my journey. So yeah, again, that's why I'm here on this podcast, getting it all out.
So what you mentioned, you had some issues with mental health six weeks ago. Is that right? Could you run us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, where do I start? So I rushed myself to hospital. I had a virus, lasted about a week, got rid of it, sorted, pulled myself together. And then I felt really cold like 4 days later and really weak. And I thought, damn, I'm going to have to take myself to hospital. I'm going to have to be a big boy here. So I got in the car. I put like 6 layers of coats on, hot water bottle, went into the hospital. I was in tears at the reception. They couldn't understand what I was saying. They're giving me tissues. And I was like, I just feel really ill. I went through this. You've got a temperature. You've got some kind of a virus. We're not too sure. They did some tests. They put me up to an intravenous drip. They put me in a wheelchair after half an hour. So you kind of thinking, oh, this is quite serious, because I looked a bit unsteady on my feet. And it's so funny. I had a speaking gig the next day. So I was thinking I'd get some magic pills and then I'd take them, and then I'd be okay to do the speaking gig, and then I had a conference. Anyway, I was in hospital for 5 days. That's how bad it was. And they gave me lots of antibiotics. They got me better. And they said, and that's it. That's pretty much done. I said, do you know what it was? They said, no, it's a blood infection. We don't know how you got it or anything like that. I said, I don't know how I got it. So I had to ask myself, how did I get that? And I thought, I don't know, because I've not been bitten by a dog or scratched, or there's no tetanus or anything. I thought it must be my immune system that was down. Why is my immune system down? I don't know. Have I been going through any tough times or anything like that? And I thought, oh yeah, I've been going through lots of tough times recently. And this is what took me back. My 7.5-year relationship had just broken up in January. And so for the last year, I'd been struggling in that, but I'd not told anybody about it. Not really. My business was going through a really, really low patch. And again, I was picking myself up using the wave of resilience. But again, there's only so many times you can get knocked down before you can pick yourself up again. I kept on picking myself up again, but I wasn't telling anybody about it. That had a consequence effect on my finances, which were just ticking down like a flipping time bomb, just getting lower and lower and lower, and which was bad. But again, I wasn't telling anybody about it. Because it's quite embarrassing, when your business is struggling, because you want to look good and you don't want to say, oh, my business is struggling or failing. You don't want to use that word. Now, on top of that, there's other stuff. And I say that because everybody has other stuff. There's always stuff going on, whether it's a speeding ticket or a parking ticket, or whether it's something that somebody says, or you need a new fridge freezer. There's stuff. And that gets piled on top. So with all of this stuff, I hadn't told anybody about it at all. And that was a realization. And I thought, that's why my immune system was down. It's that mental health thing that I've heard a lot of people talking about, and I've just like shrugged it off. I don't really know what it is. I think I know what it is now. And so once I realized what it was, I accepted the situation, then I could do something about it. And so for the last 5 weeks, one thing I did was I got a list of people that I needed to talk to. And it started off with my family and friends. My brother, my sister, my mum, they didn't know. They didn't know how bad my business was. They didn't know what I'd really been through with my relationship or my finances. And I had to say, can I have a phone call with you? And they, sounds serious. Is it serious? I said, well, it is kind of. I mean, I know what's going on now, but I just need to talk to you about it. Again, with my friends, my best friends, I hadn't really shared with them. And then after that, it was my work colleagues, talking to not all of them, but some of them. And I say work colleagues, obviously I run my own business, but I've got my mastermind group and I've got speaker friends and everything like that. So speaking to them about what I'm going through, and I'm not really looking for answers. I just needed to share. Obviously you get a little bit of help as well. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Some of it's good and some of it's just way out the window. But another thing that I did that was really important was I did a blog. Now, I didn't tell anybody about it when I was in hospital, about what I was there and everything. I didn't want any pity. What I want to do is make some good use out of what I've been through. So the blog that I wrote, anybody can find it. It's on my website. I think I put it on social media as well. The blog is about 4 pages long, and it talks about what I was going through, but most importantly, what I was doing about it. Otherwise, I'm just having a good old moan. And people do that on social media. They put stuff out there and they moan and moan and moan. And you think, right, what do you want me to do? You're just having a moan. So it's not just a moan. It's about what I went through, what I realized, and what I was doing about it. And this is where the journey that I'm on, I'm still doing something about it. And that is generally talking about it like this, sharing it. I'm getting some therapy, relationship therapy, some havening therapy, which sounds quite deep, but it's just really nice thinking about the words that I like using or don't like using, or why don't I like using that word, and things like that. Just realization. And on top of this, can I just say my wellness is really good, and this is why it can be disguised. So I'm fit, healthy. I still do triathlon, swim, bike, run. I drink lots of water. My diet's good. I sleep well. So it all looks really good. And people said to me, "Oh, Steve, I didn't know you were so unhappy." I wasn't unhappy. This is the thing. I'm always smiling and everything because I just pushed it down. And so from the outside, I did look okay. I was still good. I was happy and smiling, but inside it was just festering. And so you can easily hide it. And if somebody said to me quite blankly, "How are your finances?" I would probably say they're not too good, but things will pick up. "How are you?" I would just change the subject. So in a way, I'd convinced myself that I am talking about my finances or my business or my relationship, but I wasn't really. And so now what I'm doing is I'm being more open about how are they really? How do I really feel? And getting that all out into the open for the purpose of, one, helping me get better, and two, the more I share, more open, the more it helps other people. I was literally talking to my accountant today, and she asked me, "How are you then, Steve?" And I said, "Oh, okay." Deep breath, and I shared not as long as just now, but just like 5 minutes, and then we carried on with the conversation. At the end of it, she said, I know what you mean about mental health." I said, "Oh, do you?" She said, "Yeah, I've had that as well." For the next 10 minutes, we talked about it, and it was lovely. And she's got through it, and she was just talking about what she did. But if I hadn't mentioned mine, then she wouldn't have mentioned hers. And that's what people need to do a little bit more, is just be a little bit more open. If not for yourself, then for other people. I had so many messages from people saying how much what I've done has helped them. And that makes me feel really proud. I'm really pleased that I did what I did, and I will keep doing what I'm doing. I think I want to look back on 2024, April 2024, as a real catalyst in my life of when I changed to be more open and where it's taken me. Since that day, since April 2024, where I've gone to now in myself, knowing myself, supporting, loving myself, helping other people in a different way, not just inspiring and motivating because I'm a world champion, grew my leg back, got gold medals and stuff, but because of the person that I become, being more open about my wellness, my happiness, and my mental health. And so that's the journey that I'm on.
I love it. And obviously, I was talking to you before about that term dark night of the soul, but saying you can have multiple, right? And obviously, you had your accident and now you're going through a new one. But often, after the dark night of the soul leads to, a new chapter. And actually, the chapter's even more bright than the last one. Oh.
Yes, it's the wave of resilience again. If you do it correctly, you get to a higher plane. So I went through my mental health. I've been to a dark place. That was the hospital, I guess, in tears. And then now I'm coming up, and I will get to a higher plane than where I started because I'm doing something about it. And the dark night of the soul is absolutely true. You've just got to think about. And I think also my golden gang has grown. There were people, there were business people, website people, accountants and stuff like that. And now I've got people in my golden gang that I can speak to openly. Not everybody. I think you've got to find the right people. Some people are good about talking about some stuff, like maybe finances. Some people are really good about talking about business, and some people are talking about touchy-feely stuff or relationships and things like that. Find the right people. The only way you're going to find the right people is by opening up to lots of people until you find your golden gang. So make a list, have a bit of fun, enjoy the relationships, meeting up with people, talking to people, and just test the water. Because when you find the right person that you can open up fully to, it's just a weight off your mind, and that's how it should be. It's the sharing part.
100%. Well, yeah, just wanted to give you an opportunity here to is there anything you wanted to promote, pieces of content? We'll put links to your social media, bit books or anything like that you would like to promote here at the end of the show.
Yes, of course. Let's do this. So I have my book Gold, which is the 5 winning ways to unlock the power of your potential. It's a business book because it's quite thin. There's some exercises in that, so that's a really good one. This one is my autobiography, Don't Lean on Excuses. We've talked about that. That's quite a thick book. Good luck on reading that all in one session. But this is really important because it's got the downsides as well. It's not all happy stuff. There's some really challenges in there, and that's why I wrote it. I want people to know how tough it was, so that when they're going through toughness, they can relate. All of this can be found on my website, so please check out my website, www.steve-judge.co.uk. There's links to if you want to book me as a speaker for your next conference, a workshop for the 5 winning ways, or even just one-to-one coaching, or even just have a chat. If you want to just have a chat, I'm a really nice, open guy. We can set up a Zoom or phone call. We can have a chat, and let's see how I can help you, or maybe you can help me, or maybe we just collaborate and just chat to each other. So find me on the website. If you're not sure, then just look for me on social media. I'm all over it like a rash, so you shouldn't be able to miss it. LinkedIn, Facebook again, Instagram, Twitter, X. So no excuses. Don't lean on those excuses. get in contact, and let's see how we can help each other.
Awesome, Steve. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for the show today. I'm glad I went to Accountex and we were able to do this.
Absolutely. That's where the opportunities happen, by doing stuff, taking action. So thank you for reaching out. It's been great here, just chatting to you on this podcast, and yeah, let's keep in contact.
So what a story today with Steve, becoming disabled, using the use of his legs, having his legs to actually grow back, and then eventually becoming a world champion paratriathlete, right? It's just absolutely remarkable, his story, and just the fact that a doctor told him, oh, you might not be able to walk again. But he said, no, I tell myself I'm not going to walk. That's an excuse. I know I can walk. And then not even just walking, actually running as well. It's absolutely mad. So I think my takeaways from Steve are: turn excuses into challenges. Every time you give yourself an excuse, think that's just a challenge. He gave the example, oh, it's wet outside, so I'm not going to run, right? That's just a challenge. What can I do about that? I put on a coat, right? Well, maybe actually it's warm, but it's wet. So that's actually going to be a nice thing to run like that. So I think turning excuses into challenges is very simple, but very useful. And then his wave of resilience, right? As he said, anger, don't deny anger, don't suppress anger, right? Accept your anger and then take action on it. As he said, sharing as well. He talks about it from a mental health perspective, but also when you're angry about something, share what you're feeling with those in your circle. And then it's all about acceptance, right? And once you've accepted that thing that's making you angry, you've shared it with someone, then you take action and you find a solution, right? So that was his wave of resilience I really liked. If you like Steve's story, please share it around with your friends. Please subscribe to us. Please leave us a good review, and we'll see you next week.